Hello, my name is Simon, and today I wanted to show you something cool that you can do in Ableton. You can actually create a dynamic EQ. I'm one of those guys that really likes using like the stock plugins of Ableton. I really think that they're really good, but one thing that Ableton doesn't have is a dynamic EQ, but you can actually do that if you use a bit of ingenuity. You can actually use these things called envelope followers in Max for Live. You'll have these if you use Ableton Suite. If you have that, then this is completely free and stuff. So I'll go through this later, but first I just want to do a little presentation of what this is. It's essentially just like an effect track. So I have all of my knobs here to control how much dynamic EQ and watch I want on every band, and I can also change the frequencies of each band. And then I have the EQ available here to look at as I'm doing that. This dynamic EQ specifically I have just on the drums. I'll actually just mute the bass and the pad. They're not really that necessary right now. So if we just solo the drums here, I'll just show you what this dynamic EQ can do. It just works like a basic dynamic EQ, I guess, but I'll show you anyway. So I'll mess with the kick portion of the drums here now. So I'll change the bass and you can see what happens on the EQ as I change this gain knob here. I'll also change the frequency. You can play with the attack and the release knobs here to change the timing, which will of course influence how the groove feels in the drums, which is something fun that you can play around with. Okay, so the thing that actually makes this work is that if you look at the signal chain here, it just goes in here and then into this audio effect track here, which is hidden usually, right? And here it gets split into different effect chains, and each effect chain is for each independent band. So you can see here low shelf, low mid, high shelf. And then we have a through chain here. So this is just bypassing all of this stuff and just going through. And these are all actually muted, as you can see. And what these are doing is that these are just for triggering the envelope followers for each band. So that when I am messing around with the, let's say the frequency here on the low shelf portion of the dynamic EQ, you can see that it changes here too. Like that. And this will of course influence the envelope followers, because when I want to adjust the gain, like the dynamic EQ of the bass, of course I only want the envelope follower to listen to what the bass is doing. So to do that I had to add an EQ here so that the bass is only going into that envelope follower, but then it's also the same for the low mid here, as you can see, and then the high mid and the high shelf. I've also set up the rise and fall here and the gain knob, and these are what these are. And these are just basically duplicates, each band, just that change the frequency so it actually works, you know. You can actually also, because right now this is a subtractive dynamic EQ only, meaning that you can only duck frequencies down in volume. But if you actually use the scale function here on the EQ, you can actually make it so it's additive dynamic EQ, which is pretty cool. So I'll show you how that works. You see that when I change the scale to exactly -100, instead of going down, it goes up instead. So this is great if you want to, instead of subtracting something, you want to add in some extra frequencies dynamically, which you can do with this too. Anyway, I just thought that this was a really cool thing. And this is probably the dynamic EQ that I'll be using for a while now. Since it's just Ableton, dude. Ableton is great. I'll have this effect track available for free for download in the description. And thank you for watching.